Just to tell you a little bit more about those two terror attacks that has taken place in the last 24 hours in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. 2 army soldiers have been martyred in Nagrota terror attack after 3 terrorists targeted an army unit. At the same time, 3 terrorists infiltrated into India along the international border, where the BSF personnel patrolling the area engaged and killed all 3 of those terrorists in a matter of hours. According to intelligence sources, these terrorists possibly infiltrated together and then split into 2 groups, one attacking the army unit in Nagrota and the other firing at BSF personnel at Chamdial. These development comes hours after Pakistan's High Commissioner Abdul Basit told India today that Pakistan was ready for a peaceful dialogue with India. Let's just tell you a little bit more about that attack that took place in Nagrota, where 3 Lashkar terrorists targeted the army area. At 5:40 in the morning, the terrorists lobbed grenades and started firing indiscriminately at the army unit. 2 army soldiers have been martyred. 2 Jawans have also sustained injuries. Sources have told India today that the terrorists came in a car up to the main gate of the army camp. They then attacked the guard on duty with grenades. The terrorists are inside the Nagrota army camp. All terrorists, in fact, were taking refuge inside the Balani Nala of Kot Jagir village in Nagrota. The last update that we got was that 3 terrorists have been killed in that heavy gunfire between the army and the terrorists. They have been neutralized, but combing operations presently are still continuing because there is information that 1 terrorist could still be inside the huge cantonment area. A high alert has already been sounded in the state. Security forces have also been asked to remain vigilant. In fact, let's just listen in to some reactions coming in from eyewitnesses about the attack that took place on the massive army installation. Let's just tell you a little bit more about the attack in Nagrota. These 3 terrorists stormed into the heavily fortified army camp. It's also the headquarters of 16 Corps, who have been engaged in a heavy gunfire with the terrorists since early this morning. Nagrota, which is around 20 kilometers from Jammu, is a massive military formation that defends the country's borders. It's situated right near the Srinagar National Highway. The army cantonment also houses several important army units and installations, and they're also involved in several counter-terror operations besides guarding the international border and the line of control. And there are also several drains that connect to Pakistan that passes through Nagrota that perhaps makes it a focus point for terror attacks. Let's also just listen in to some reactions coming in from defense experts across the country. Let's go straight across to Shuja ul Haq for more on this. Shuja, the attack on Pathankot and now in Nagrota is, once again raises concern about how India's strategic assets are at risk. If we speak about Nagrota, it's the Cant, which is the headquarters of the 16 Corps that also houses important installations, which clearly means that there is a set pattern being followed by these terrorists.
Spot on there, Avantika. There is a set pattern that these militant groups employ, and the fact remains that why are our army installations so vulnerable to these attacks? Those will be the question that will definitely be asked. Remember, after the surgical strike announcement, the no less than defense minister himself had said that the army should up their guard. They should make sure that these attacks are thwarted, averted, right in the beginning. But that's clearly was not the case with this particular one. Nagrota, where these militants attacked at the field regiment camp, at the gate in itself they could cross. They entered the gate. They engaged these army men in the initial fire, and that's where the casualties were also taken. They held up inside for a long time before the special forces were brought in, and now we are learning that they've been gunned down. But important question still will remain: why was the guard not proper when it comes to making sure that these militants are not allowed inside at all? Those will be the questions which, if there is a probe, we'll look at whether there were lapses in ensuring that the guard was proper. But having said that, when it comes to installations like these ones, particularly the installation at Nagrota, it's a very, very important one. Strategically very important. It is the headquarters of the Core Command and has installations and logistics which are used all across the line of control and the international border for guarding, and also if there at all there is an offensive.
But Shuja, speaking of lapses, there's already a heightened vigil, isn't it? Especially during these months when winter sets in because of the spurt in infiltration attempts. That perhaps, raises questions about an insider's job to, allow or give advantage to the terrorists to make entry into such important areas.
Well, certainly, those are the areas where if there is an investigation, they have to be looked at. Whether there was an insider job, whether there was anyone who passed on the information about the particular spot where this attack is to be carried out, keeping in mind that the guard is lower or there is a soft spot with regards to the security. So insider's angle is always probed. It was probed by the NIA itself in Uri attack also, when there were suspicion that an insider might have passed on this specific input about the presence of the troops there, and that's how the attack was so well coordinated and how it was launched at the Uri camp. So certainly there will be investigation, there will be a probe which will have to answer these questions, whether the army was not prepared enough for guarding its installations, how did it happen, who was behind it, whether there was a local hand in it. All those questions are things that will definitely be asked once the dust settles down.
Stay with me, Shuja. I would also like to tell our viewers about the second terror attack that took place, in which 3 terrorists were gunned down by security forces. And this incident, in fact, took place in Jammu and Kashmir's Chamiyal area after they opened fire on the border security forces. Even this incident took place in the early morning hours. 3 terrorists were spotted by thermal imagers late last night. The terrorists allegedly hid in a tube well just right next to the border. When security forces began search operation, the terrorists opened fire. And that's when BSF Jawans killed the 3 terrorists in retaliatory fire. The 3 Jawans were injured in the encounter and in cross-border firing. Combing operation still continues. These are the images of the slain terrorists, the 3 terrorists who infiltrated into India. They have been identified as members of the Lashkar-e-Taiba. In fact, the group was part of a larger group that had split up to simultaneously attack Chamiyal in Samba and Nagrota at the same time. The groups had reportedly crossed from the Masroor Bada Bhai terror launch pad just near the international border.
Hello.
Thermal imagers. Shuja, why don't you just tell us just how did the border security force intercept these group of terrorists who were attempting to cross over at the international border?
Well, here is the information that we have been able to collect so far, and this is all based on those inputs which we've been given out by the agencies and other security forces who are working on the ground. Last night there was suspicious movement that the BSF picked up on thermal images. Now, thermal images are generated by the electronic surveillance devices that are used to check the movement on a line of control and international border. They are of real help, particularly at a time when the weather is foggy and the visibility is less. Now, BSF seems to have picked up the thermal images, and then they launched a search operation. And it was during the search operation early this morning that BSF received fire and an encounter began. Once the encounter began, these BSF cornered them, and 3 of them have been killed. Now, what we are learning now is that after the encounter was over, a team of BSF personnel, including a DIG level officer, came and were part of were overlooking the mopping operation, and that's when a blast took place there. And now one DIG level officer of BSF has sustained injuries, and 2 other BSF Jawans, which includes 1 inspector as well, have been injured because of the blast that took place after the encounter was over. So these are the details that we are getting from the Samba operation. Now, whether both of them were coordinated, both as in Samba as well as Nagrota were coordinated, those are the things that investigation intelligence will have to probe in, but intelligence sources did seem to suggest that there was possibility that a big group had split into two. And if that was the case, then it is quite a possibility that both of them were working in tandem.
Right, absolutely. Shuja, thanks so much for joining us and getting us up to speed with all the updates on those two terror attacks, the twin terror attacks that comes at a time when Pakistan offered an olive branch to India. In fact, in an exclusive chat with India Today's Rahul Kanwal, the Pakistan High Commissioner Abdul Basit called for a peaceful dialogue between both the nations, saying Pakistan is more than willing to have a constructive relationship and dialogue with India. And just barely 24 hours since he made that statement, Pakistan's duplicity stands exposed yet again. This latest attack is once again a reminder of Pakistan Army's tacit support to armed terrorists. But let's just listen into what Basit had to say when he was asked about Pakistan's relations with India.
आपके हिसाब से आप कह रहे हैं कि आप बातचीत चाहते हैं, लेकिन फिलहाल हकीकत यह है कि बातचीत पूरी तरीके से टूटी हुई है, कोई बातचीत खास दो देशों के बीच में हो नहीं रही। अब हार्ट ऑफ एशिया कॉन्फ्रेंस होने वाला है अमृतसर में अगले ही कुछ दिनों में। क्या आपको लगता है कि हार्ट ऑफ एशिया में जहां पे आपके विदेश मंत्री फॉरेन मिनिस्टर सरताज अजीज आएंगे, उसमें कोई एक नया रास्ता निकल सकता है, बातचीत का नया दौर शुरू हो सकता है?
देखिए, एक और मेरे ख्याल में एक बात समझ लेनी चाहिए कि अगर अमन इस खित्ते में आएगा, जनूबी एशिया में आएगा, तो हम दोनों ममालिक के मफाद में हैं कि हम अगर अमन के साथ रह रहे हैं, और तो उसमें आपका भी फ़ायदा है, हमारा भी फ़ायदा है। और दूसरी बात ये भी समझ लेनी चाहिए कि अमन सिर्फ बातचीत से आ सकता है। तो बातचीत कोई हम फेवर नहीं कर रहे एक दूसरे की, बाहमी हमारे मफादात में है कि हम दूसरे से बातचीत करें और अमन की तरफ बढ़ें। अगर सिर्फ मुज़ाकरात से ही अमन आ सकता है, तो फिर मुज़ाकरात का सिलसिला हमारे नुक्ता नज़र से शुरू होना चाहिए और अनकंडीशनली होना चाहिए, कोई पेशी शराइत नहीं होने चाहिए। और यही हमारा हमेशा से पॉलिसी रही है, क्योंकि हमारे वज़ीर आज़म का हमेशा से ये रहा है कि अगर हमने इस खित्ते को तरक्की की राह पे गामज़न करना है, तो उसके लिए अमन बहुत ज़रूरी है और अमन के लिए बातचीत बहुत ज़रूरी है।
And on the day when the Lieutenant General Qamar Javed Bajwa took oath as the new Pakistan Army Chief, two terror attacks have taken place in Jammu and Kashmir. In fact, Lieutenant General Bajwa has replaced General Raheel Sharif. He is arguably the most influential person in Pakistan, and it doesn't really come as a coincidence that on his oath-taking ceremony, terrorists have struck once again, not once but twice, unleashing terror in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. While there's a change of guard in Pakistan's army, it looks like it will be the usual rhetoric when it comes to Kashmir by Pakistan.